What's up, brothers? We got a requested topic today from a guy that is a single dad. He's a young single dad, about 27, and he's got a lot of guilt and shame around his life right now. So he's requested for some feedback on that. This will be great for divorced dads, young fathers, and even guys out there that are considering getting into that. So let's hop right into it. He's going to be kept anonymous per request. He goes, here's some background. He was 23 when he knocked up a girl. Only had known her for about 3 months. There were red flags from the very beginning of meeting her, BPD, anxiety issues, etc. So by the way, if you haven't gotten on my email list, card up on the top right of the screen, it'll be a pop-out banner. Click that and opt in. You'll also get my free chapter on red flags so you can avoid this and end up being in a situation like he did. Anyway, he practiced patience because of blue pill conditioning, and because of that's what she asked for. So he's 27 now. The past 4 years, we have broken up and gotten back together countless times. I no longer have any patience for her. We're done. All right. I currently work as a middle school teacher in California, and I am paid about $60,000. Even though I'm not a high income earner, it's easy to spin plates by relying on looks and charisma. A lot of you guys challenge me when I talk to Troy about charisma, but it is important, so pay attention to it. Anyway, he says, I work out a lot, stay in a small apartment by myself, and just meet girls on dating apps when he's in the mood. Over the past year, I really dove into the red pill mindset, maintaining frame, etc. It's really easy for him, actually, he says. So when he's out there dating, he finds it easy to maintain frame. I suspect that probably changes. I know I should and could strive for better paying work, but I actually really enjoy the work, and the lifestyle teaching provides me mainly tons of free time and opportunity to see my daughter or work on personal creative projects. If you're not familiar with teaching in North America, teachers get summers off. They get a lot of vacation around Christmas and the holidays and spring breaks and all that sort of stuff. They're paid reasonably well. So, he's got a lot of flexibility in his schedule, which is good for him, especially because he's got a small kid. But anyway, so he's got creative projects. I'm writing a novel, screenplay, and other stuff in that realm. If you have any suggestions for side hustles to increase income, that would be great. I don't know where to start. Okay, we'll just leave that on the back burner for the time being. Let's carry on. The main issue stems from my daughter. I've started to notice that she's the reason I slip up. Whenever it comes to my daughter, I'm racked with guilt, self-doubt, and the years of blue pill conditioning creep back in. There it is. So he's good with frame when he's dating, maintaining it, and he finds it easy. But around his daughter, and I'm guessing her mom, he's dealing with blue pill conditioning, so he's flip-flopping back and forth. I think every single time I got back with my ex was for the sake of the daughter. I can't get the idea that she needs a happy, wholesome household out of my head. Well, it's because you're right. Let's go full screen and talk about that for a minute. So they don't pin the data on single fathers or single mothers, but we know that the vast majority of children raised today in a single parent household, it's still single mothers. So the data looks like this. Vast majority of incarcerated, single mother households. Vast majority of teenage pregnancies, single mother household. Bad grades, gang activity. I can go on and on and on and on down the list, but it's not a good place to begin. Like, you're not setting up kids for a successful lifestyle when it comes to spending most of their time with one parent. You can influence some change there by sharing custody, which is what I do. But you'll find that you will feel bad, from time to time. And you know that you shouldn't, is what he's saying here. So his main question is, how do you maintain frame as a single dad of a girl? How do you maintain a strong, healthy relationship with her? Okay, so let's do these one by one. So main question is, how do you maintain frame as a single dad of a girl? So you have no problem with it dating, but you have a problem with it around her and her mom, it seems like. Otherwise, see, that's a little bizarre. I'm wondering why that is. Single dad of a girl. So when it comes to maintaining frame as a father with a daughter in tow from a prior relationship, you need to make sure that you demonstrate what a high value, strong, virtuous guy looks like. So, there's no other way to say it other than you have to become the red pill. It has to embody, not just when you're out there dating and on the SMP, or you're spinning plates, whatever, like you're talking about earlier, but that has to be consistent all the time. That's an act, is what you're doing. You're actually putting it on an act over here. Okay, when you're out on the dating scope of things, and this is who you really are. So you've got some updating to do with your belief system. This is why you're making these choices here and getting the results you are with your daughter and your mom. Let me just finish this so I make sure that I cover everything so I'm not missing it. So you always feel bad about it. You shouldn't make questions. So how do you maintain a strong, healthy relationship with her? I'll talk about that in a minute. She's only 3, so she's very attached to her mom, who coddles her much more than I do. I worry her very passive, unstable mother will influence her much more than she will. Dude, that is something that we will talk about in a moment. I see her usually 2 or 3 days a week. She matters to me, and I don't understand why, but every time I think of maintaining frame of the red pill or mental point of origin, I feel like it conflicts with what I'm being a father of a daughter should be. So how do I sort this out? It's like sometimes the red pill mindset feels selfish when juxtaposed with fatherhood. I'm always trying to work on me, my body, my projects, my work. All right, so you're talking 2 to 3 days a week you're with her. Ideally, you want to share custody. So you want roughly about a 50-50 split. She's kind of small because she's 3. So maybe that'll shift over time. It's unlikely that it will, simply because women don't want to give up more time, and there's a lot of benefits to her being the custodial caregiver, making unilateral choices without your consent. Money flows to her for child support. There's a whole bunch of benefits in it for her, so it's unlikely that she's going to give it up over time. So let's assume that you're dealing with 2 to 3 days a week till she's, an adult, basically. How do you maintain frame? So there's 2 questions in there. How do you maintain frame as the man, as a father, and how do you do what's right for your kid? Let's deal with you first, because mental point of origin is real important. Again, you have to embody it at all times. It's not an on and off switch. It's got to be on all the time. So your beliefs are relying back onto your old conditioning that got you the results that you have, that you're living with today. That needs updating. You haven't talked about what tools and resources you've read. I know some people just sometimes will, inadvertently come across my channel. They'll see that people can request topics, and then they just go and request. And they haven't watched much of my content. They haven't read any of the books that I've recommended. So let's start here. Pinned in my top comment, there's an Amazon link for books that I recommend. So you can click that. There's lots of good titles and topics there. I've talked about many of them in prior videos, so I'm not going to go over them one by one right now. But definitely, off the top of my head, the Rational Male book series, 1 and 2, minimum, you want to read about 4 or 5 times. They're very dense. It's like drinking from a fire hose. No More Mr. Nice Guy is a good unplugging book. Jack Donovan stuff I like in terms of masculinity and mental point of origin, Way of Man, Becoming a Barbarian. That's all in there. So I would start with those. You also need to get some understanding around the differences with the sexes, because I feel like you're still a little blue-pilled when it comes to understanding them. There's also some books in there about Evo Psych stuff, so to help you understand the differences between men and women, specifically. So take a look at those. Once you've got yourself to a place where you fully embody, what the world really truly is, then you'll be able to apply that to your parenting skills next. Rollo's 3rd book he says it's more specifically about parenting, like red pill parenting. So I definitely recommend reading that. I think you'll probably, with the way you're describing yourself, get a lot more out of the first 2. But so there's that component of it first. Begin there, begin with yourself, begin with mental point of origin, begin with consistently behaving the same way that you do everywhere in life, not just, to game women or anything like that, but it's with everything. I've often said this, and a lot of you guys, will criticize that, there's too much time spent chasing tail, blah, 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 but you're not paying attention. You're not watching enough of the content, because I talk about it universally with everything. You can apply this lens to the way you look at money, the way that you create wealth, the way that you interact with friends and family. It goes well beyond just, let's learn how to game women and get the girls. There's so much more to it. So broaden your horizons and apply it to everything. When it comes to the situation you're in with your kid, here's some tips for you. So there's a book by Dr. Kevin Leman. I'll make sure it's pinned in the Amazon link. I can't remember the title right now, but I'll make sure that it's there. But Dr. Kevin Leman wrote a great book about raising girls as a dad. So I'll drop that in there. There's another guy, Dr. Leonard Saxon or Saxton. I'll make sure his book is also pinned down there as well, about parenting girls. Very, very useful topics and content on both. You'll actually be surprised at how red-pilled Dr. Leonard Saxon is. For example, when it comes to talking about parenting kids and specifically girls. But what you know about gaming women, you can apply to raising your daughter. It's a different approach, obviously. It's not the same thing because you're parenting a child. You're not her friend. You're there to set boundaries. You're there to obviously lead the way, pave the path. But at some point during the tween years, she's going to start, wanting to make decisions on her own, want more flexibility and freedom. And that's when you're going to have to bring down the dad hammer and set boundaries. The problem with that, though, is, as you fear, she spends a lot of time with her mom, who sounds like is a bit of a, let's just use the word challenge. And she's going to have more influence from that perspective in her life. She's going to often rely on that as a default programming because it's where she spends most of her time. I mean, there's 7 days in a week, and if she's only spending 2 or 3 of them with you, it's around 2/3, right? Or sorry, 1/3. She's spending most of the time with her mom. Most of her influence is going to come there, and you can't deprogram that. The only way that you can have more influence or more impact is if you have a shared parenting arrangement where she spends about half the time with you, or ideally more time with you. Failing that, you're always at the mercy of what she's going to do. And, you can take you'll start to notice this as a dad. I'm sure a lot of guys will agree with me. You can leave a comment below, but, if in the summer schedule, for example, she's with her mom for 3 or 4 weeks straight, and then you've got her for 3 or 4 weeks straight during the summer schedule, most fathers will recognize that the kid's behavior is going to be more closely aligned with the mother than a more balanced, behavior or approach to life, more like yours, for example. It's just influence. It's birds of a feather sort of flock together. And if they're spending a lot more time together, she's going to be rubbed off in that way. So you have to make the most of your time. You got to show her what a strong, virtuous dude looks like, and carve out time for her. Don't take any crap. The red pill gets a lot of flack from the community from the perspective of, it's like, oh, you don't like women or you hate women or this sort of thing. It's like, no. There's a big difference between men that don't like women and men that won't put up with crap from females. 2 different things completely. And you have to set boundaries around your kid and what she's going to do. At 3 or 4, it's not a big deal. They're sweet and pleasant up until 8 or 9 or 10 or so. After that, they start to have interesting opinions that push back into directions that you need to, change your parenting skills with. But at 3, you've got it super easy. I mean, she's just gorgeous at that age, right? What I would recommend you do is carve out a weekly. I mean, if you've got her 2 or 3 days a week, set it in your schedule. So let's say you've got her Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, for example, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, for part of the weekend. What I would do is I'd carve out one night during the schedule that you have with her. Call it a daddy-daughter date night, and let her pick an activity that you guys will go and do together. At 3 or 4, sometimes it's not going to be particularly interesting for you. I spent a lot of time going to Chuck E. Cheese or watching movies that I wasn't, particularly interested in. But the important component of it is during that evening that you carve out, make sure your phone is set aside, it's off. You don't even bring it with you, ideally, if you can avoid it, so that you've got one-on-one contact with her. She's got your undivided attention. She's, of course, small. She doesn't have a screen, and she really shouldn't have screens in her hand until she's at least in grade 8 or so. This is all per Dr. Leonard Saxon, but you want to make sure that you've got direct one-on-one communication time with her. What'd you get up to this week? What are your hopes, dreams, and desires? What do you want to do with daddy tonight? Where do you want to go, sort of thing. And then you kind of engage her in interesting conversations. What was the best part of your week? What was the worst part of your week? What would you like to do next time we go out for daddy-daughter date night, sort of thing. And then you just kind of engage in those conversations and see where that takes you. You'll actually be surprised to find out what kind of talks you're going to have with that little girl if you carve out the time to be her father and, do the parenting stuff that I've talked about that's so important so you don't run into problems like teenage pregnancies, for example. A lot of women that have been raised by single mothers, I got to fix this light situation. There we go. A lot of women that have been raised by single mothers end up becoming single mothers at very young ages too. especially in a state like California, which is a very liberal, left-leaning sort of thing. It's something that you've got to be concerned with as a father. The good news is you're a teacher, so you have lots more flexibility and free time in your schedule. So don't be afraid to do things with her. You know, don't be afraid to be the father and take her places and show her stuff, because her mom's probably not going to do it. It's more than unlikely that she's going to do it, in fact. And as she gets older, those daddy-daughter date nights are going to change from, you know, pizza and a movie or going to Chuck E. Cheese to, like last summer, I did a retreat with my daughter in LA. So, you know, we picked a whole bunch of places to go. We carved out like 4 or 5 days, and we did this entire route. It was awesome. You know, rented a car, drove up the Pacific Coast Highway, did a couple of the amusement parks. There was lots to do, right? I mean, it's just you have to make the time for it, and you need to develop that relationship with her if that's what you want to have, so she doesn't end up being a train wreck like her mother is, you know, she gets older. So I hope that offers some insight for you. I covered a lot there, so I'm going to wrap this video up. If you want to request a topic, the card is up on the top right. You land on this screen over here. Basically, just make a PayPal donation and you know, spell it out for me, and I can read it off and offer some feedback based on some perspectives. If you guys have any advice beyond what I've talked about here, comment section below. Let him know what you think, and definitely check out those books in the Amazon bookstore. I'm gonna make sure that this is updated before I publish this video, so that it includes the links to those books that I talked about, parenting daughters as a father. See you guys in the next video. Peace.